Hello, I'm Darrell Dickeson, board member of the Wenatchee Valley Senior Activity Center. As you can see behind us here today, we have activity going on here all the time. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing Greg and Janet Franz that have been members here for a while,
Yes.
I believe. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start with Janet because Janet was sort of a born and raised person here in the Wenatchee Valley, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Janet, and how you kind of got to be involved in various things. And you notice I'm wearing my Wenatchee Valley College hat. And that's a common bond that we have, and both of you have a very special bond with that institution. Mm-hmm. But tell us where you grew up and how did you, give us a little bit about your career. And
Okay. Actually was born in Olympia, and then Mom and I traveled to Japan, and my next sister was born there. But then we ended up in Kashmir in the second grade and was there ever since. So I was raised there, and then went to Arizona for a little while, but knew we wanted to raise our kids in Kashmir, so came back to Kashmir, raised my kids, and then I was the middle school secretary for 13 years. So have a lot of connections with Kashmir, and a lot of the kids that went through are now dentists and lawyers and doctors, and the superintendent of Kashmir, Glenn Johnson, I knew him as Glenny in the sixth grade, so a lot of connections.
Now, as I recall too, it seems like you spent some time at Rusty's Drive-In.
You have done your homework, haven't you? Yes, and that was the happening place, so that was a pretty exciting place to work. Everybody drove their car down to Rusty's, and
still going today.
Yes,
amazing.
We served a mean hamburger. I did a lot of French fries. We had those hand French fry makers.
Did you peel the potatoes?
Had to peel them and stick them in there, and
We used to, I don't know if you remember the Tumwater Cafe in Leavenworth, but they didn't peel theirs. And added a different, dimension to it.
We peeled ours, definitely.
Yeah. So going back to the college here for a bit, you spent quite a bit of time working at Wenatchee Valley College, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Kathy River Shannon said there was an opening at the college, and I was pretty happy where I was at, but then I started looking into the college and decided to make the change. I've been the president's assistant. I was there for 27 years.
27 years.
Yeah, and that was 7 presidents. Some of them were interim, but a lot of presidents.
And we all know the neck that turns the head of the president, right? Wow.
So just never regretted that change. It was hard to leave students, but didn't have such an active role with students, but just made a lot of difference in the lives of students when you hear the stories. If you want some inspiration, just go to like the scholarship receptions and hear the stories of those kids and what a difference we've made in their life, or go to nurses pinning or graduation, go to GED graduations. I don't know if they still have that, but those are very inspirational. They
Absolutely.
make a big difference in people's lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Greg, you took a little more circuitous route to Wenatchee and stuff. As I recall, you started off in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your journey and how did you end up here in the Wenatchee Valley?
Chasing a round orange ball, pretty much was that. I grew up in near York, Nebraska, about 50 minutes out of Lincoln.
Okay.
And then went to junior college close by there at York. Then got a scholarship down into Harding University in Arkansas. Finished my undergraduate degree there. Got back up to Nebraska for a couple of years. Worked under a Hall of Fame coach as his junior varsity coach in Grand Island, Nebraska. Then doing grad school at the University of Nebraska. Then was given an opportunity to go as a graduate assistant to Indiana State University. And that's where the adventure kind of began as far as travels. From Indiana State, I went to Lincoln Trail College in Illinois for 4 years. Took a 4-year position in Havre, Montana, what's now MSU Northern in Havre. Then got out of coaching for a couple of years, and the former Washington State Cougar coach, Kelvin Sampson, told me about the job up here. So
at the college?
At the college,
Okay.
told me about WVC here, and So we put an application in, and in 1988 got the position and moved the family up. So all of that, though, was coaching positions from Indiana State to Illinois to Montana, actually to Kansas, then to Washington State up here was all basketball. And so
Great. So that was that orange round
that was
thing,
that orange
basketball,
round ball.
right? Okay.
And
I think most people probably know that, but just in case, So you've been the basketball coach at the college. You've been the athletic director at the college. Tell us a little bit more about, how that's impacted your life as a player, as a coach. As Janet was saying, just seeing the reward of, kids that get education and graduate and grow up and all that kind of stuff. What was your motivating force?
when I quit coaching, when I got out of head coaching, I guess I've never really quit coaching, but what I realized was that over the course of 30-some years of coaching, I had put 67 athletes into four-year programs. This was all at the junior college level going forward, not including what we did at the four-year college level in Montana. So the thing I remembered is that you remember a lot of the games and a lot of the statistics and things like that, but ultimately it was preparing athletes to go on to the four-year college level academically, athletically, and that was what was most rewarding of it. We won an NWAC title in '96. We were runner-up in 2000. And one of the things that I was proud of at the time was we did it. We were very committed to recruiting locally. And I called it a pebble in a pond. You drop a pebble in the pond, concentric circles work their way out, and that was our recruiting philosophy. And so we started within the 50-minute radius or 50-mile radius here, and worked out wherever we needed to go, and had some great athletes, a lot of local flavor. You got a lot of our former athletes coaching at local high schools or in athletic administration at local high schools, and so it was just very rewarding, and like I said, just had the privilege to coach a lot of great young men over the course of about 30 years.
Great. And as athletic director, then I guess you also got to be over the women's sports as well.
You got to coach the coaches.
Yep.
And so now you're having an impact over 150 athletes at WVC. And the key there is to empower the coaches and do the things that allow them to focus on being good coaches. Mm-hmm. And and then the politics of budgets and finance and things like that, which I know the senior center here is working with too. And last go round, just the cost of transportation of renting a bus,
right,
was a game changer. Yeah. This last time of going and helping. So athletic director was never something I was searching out. When Marco Azurdia left, it was kind of last man standing, and so they pulled me in, and it was a good run. Learned a lot, and again, you're basically privileged to coach coaches.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, Janet, did you two meet at the college, through the college?
We met at the college. The first acquaintance was a little shaky. I was the advisor of the dance squad, and the only time we could practice in the gym was Sunday nights from 7 to 9. That was the only time I could be in the gym. I got a call and said I might have to give up my practice time because the men's basketball team had lost their game and they might be coming in to run lines. But I was not real happy about that. I was not going to give up my practice time. I told the girls, we're staying here. I don't care. We're
so you
keeping
talked
our
about
practice
drawing boundaries early.
Yeah, exactly. But then the gym doors burst open, and this guy, a very big guy, came bursting through with his team. And so I said, okay, girls, let's head to the racquetball courts. And we let them have. So that was our first introduction. Yeah. But we survived that. And
And I heard a rumor that Greg doesn't dance, so
No.
that must have been good.
That was another obstacle we had to overcome.
Well,
So how
we
long
did
have you guys been members of the Wenatchee Valley Senior Activity Center?
Before COVID,
yeah, it was one of our first trips was, first thing that we did at Senior Center was to one of the Mariners games.
Okay.
So that would have been maybe 16 or 17, 2016 or 17. And we had a really, good time going in there. And then through some of the exercise classes, we'd have coffees up here and with some of the senior centers and things. And then just this last year had Janet, had researched, and the opportunity to go to Cape Cod was our first major trip with the center, and it was just awesome.
Great.
Great trip.
great trip.
Great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you two have heard of our program that we've done here a couple of years now. It's called the Aging Mastery Program. And it's basically, good information for people as we get older, things like balance and diet and exercise. You two strike me as sort of a example of good practices for aging, specifically exercise. I know you're both very active doing various things. Are you do that consciously, or is it just natural, or how does?
It's more natural for Janet. I kind of grew up differently in the sense that if a coach didn't blow a whistle, I saw no reason to run. Whereas Janet's she's a walker. She's been walking, I think, her whole life in there. So she's an incredibly powerful influence for me to get out and do it without the coach blowing a whistle.
Great. And it seems like I heard too, you were a cheerleader back in the day.
I was a cheerleader back in the day.
So you've always been kind of active.
Yeah,
And,
yep. There was a group of us that walked every night in Kashmir. I actually taught aerobics class for several years, and just find it very important to stay active. So
well, good for you. And like I said, I consider you both role models for, I need to do more myself, and I'm inspired, by people like you. So you mentioned, Greg, about the travel that you did through the Wenatchee Valley Senior Activity Center to Cape Cod, and the Mariners game and that kind of thing. But the two of you have also done a lot of traveling on your own. So you've both been retired for what, year or two now?
I've been 3, you've been 4.
Yeah, 2018 for me, 2019 for Janet.
Okay.
And then I went back for 7 months this past year. But other than that, yeah, it's 3 and 4 years. But we started traveling.
The day after I retired.
The day after.
But when my daughter graduated from Western in 2009, my sister and brother-in-law came up from Nebraska, and we went up to Victoria after her graduation. And since then, every year we've done something, gone somewhere. Again, a combination of international and within the continental United States. It's been a good run, and just right now it's pretty much we feel good and we have our health and things. Let's not let the grass grow.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You mentioned Nebraska, and it reminded me of something that Dr. Jim Richardson, who used to be your neighbor,
Correct.
President of Wenatchee Valley College, told me about a time when you did some kind of what was Nebraska and was that Wisconsin?
Wisconsin,
were playing,
yes,
and so you did something in his driveway or something?
Yeah, this is flow. You're playing with fire here. And another professor from in Ag, Bob Gillespie, Dr. Bob Gillespie,
Right.
okay, was from Nebraska also. Grew up maybe 90 minutes from where I grew up. And during the season, Nebraska had upset Wisconsin. So I had a big Nebraska banner that my sister had sent me at one time or another. And so we took a couple of volleyball standards and we set up a big Nebraska banner in front of Dr. Richardson's home. And then Wisconsin proceeded to beat Nebraska in this championship game like 70-20 or something like this. So Dr. Gillespie never did show up to help me take this apart. But when I got there, the Nebraska sign was hung upside down on Dr. Richardson's driveway.
I wonder who did that.
I think I'm sure it wasn't Kim. Let's put it this way.
Probably so. Grandkids, you are a blended family.
Correct.
And my impression is that you have somehow made a very big success out of that, doing that. How did you do that?
I listened to her.
That's good.
I don't think we can really take the credit. Our kids are just good people. We've talked about that. You know, we have 5 kids, and they're just all good human beings and good people. He had a daughter at home, and I still had a son at home. So they got to know each other. It was before cell phones, so no texting, but they did emails. So they actually conversed back and forth and got to know each other before they even met each other. So I think that was helpful. But like I said, they're just all really good people and respectful, and we get together a lot. And
Great. How many grandkids total?
5.
5.
Right.
Yep.
Great.
Ranging from about 23 to 4. Speaking of the Wisconsin and Dr. Richardson, though, our 4.5-year-old, she would say, they just moved to Madison, Wisconsin, which is really hard on this Cornhusker. And her love for Bucky Badger has not been easy to handle, but I'm working through it.
Oh, good. Good for you. You're in recovery.
In recovery.
One last, any sage advice that you have, being somewhat newly retired and, experiencing what you've experienced for, our viewers out there, whether it's exercise or volunteering or traveling or, what have you learned so far in your short retirement time?
After you.
I enjoy life, and I just try to get out there and partake. Like Greg said, you don't know what your window is going to be. Tomorrow you could turn around and not be as mobile, and so we just try to get out and do things as much as we can. Mine is a lot of social. To be able to have lunch with a friend and not say, oh my gosh, my lunch hour's over, to be able to sit there for 3 hours and
Sure.
and talk. And it's been a blessing to be able to retire. And so just stay active physically and emotionally, socially, and life is good.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything else either of you want to add?
I would just say that part of aging is to recognize changes. And so we were able to hook up through Janet, hooked up with Aaron Cass in the Matter of Balance classes. And while, quote unquote, we are volunteer instructors there, the class is teaching us a great deal about challenges faced by seniors. And so it's caused us to be proactive. Railings on stairways and walkways around the house. And then again, just being active and helping other people, encourage them to be active. So a chance to shout out here to Aaron's program called Matter of Balance and the opportunity we've had to engage with that.
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because Erin is one of our board members as well here, and I know she oversees the Matter of Balance program, maybe statewide, I don't know. And if I understood correctly, the two of you either have been or currently are teaching a class right now at the Y?
Have been, currently.
This is our fourth,
Yeah.
our fourth class since beginning in June.
Great.
And,
My wife and I also attended that class, and it's very, very worthwhile.
Very
so
worth.
thank you for.
We had one gentleman that said, when I heard it was going to be, for 4 weeks, I thought that was a little much, but he said, I'd actually like it to go on longer. So I
Right.
think we have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you again for your time and everything that you do for our community.
Thank you.
thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
Thank you.